As a developer, I want to fix all the glitches in that intro, but apparently it's art. You're like, why is that flickering? That's just wrong. I used to program on Commodore 64 and Amiga and these kind of animations as well, and I'm like, every time it flickered, you're like, oh, damn, like, I gotta change all the loops now and make that work again. But yeah, this is what art is nowadays. Now, I want to talk today quickly about how HTML5 missed its graduation day, which sounds like a weird thing, but something that is a bit on my mind, and you have no choice but to listen to me because I'm on stage. So I am working for Mozilla as the principal evangelist, and I don't work for Mozilla on product, but I work on Mozilla on HTML5. That's what I started with, and when I started in 2010 there, I wanted to be the Switzerland of HTML5, because back then there was the big fight going on, which is the best HTML5 browser, and everybody compared with each other. And in reality, HTML5 to me just meant that we're going from one web that was very, very simple to a web of applications that made much more sense. And we missed something there, but I'm getting a bit ahead, so let's go through that from the beginning. HTML5 was nothing new, it was just something that needed to change. HTML4 we used for years and years. XHTML was just bizarre because it was a slightly academic exercise. Like no browser supported XHTML completely, especially not IE6, which you had to not give a XML prologue, although it was in XML and all these kind of weird things. But it was a shift in like necessity. We shifted from texts with blue underlined words in them linking to other texts to things that we use every day to do everyday tasks. And these are applications. No matter which language they're in, no matter what platform, applications are things that actually make us do things. So from read things to do things. Just consuming, sending something in, maybe putting a comment in there, from doing calculations, from doing spreadsheets, from doing things in the browser that we haven't done before. And for that, we needed new, exciting, and necessary features, and that is what we defined in HTML5. So we had natively supported video and audio. That was a big thing. Out of a sudden, I didn't need Flash to play a video, and I could control the video any way I want to. I could rotate it, I could zoom in it, I can layer something over it. I remember before that, putting something on top of a video was just like 20 lines of HTML hackery and like hidden iframes and all kind of stuff. We didn't need that anymore. Painting and image manipulation was another big thing. Out of a sudden, I can paint something in the browser without having to use Flash, without using to host a Java applet or Silverlight or whatever else was out there. It was just in there in the browser. Offline functionality, I'm going to give a long talk, another half-hour talk at 3 o'clock about this, because that to me is the most important thing right now. Browser history handling. We used Ajax to load content on demand. We didn't go from page to page anymore, and out of a sudden people hitting the back button meant our application was gone. So we needed something to fix that, and we did it with like hidden iframes again and seeding that iframe and do all kind of things we used to do with Flash before, but we have a history API in the browser now to do that for us. Richer form controls, ranges, color pickers, autocomplete, list boxes, number entry. On a desktop, that is not that exciting, but on a phone, that's absolutely impossible to not enter a number if you don't switch to the number keyboard. And with input type number, you can do that. And simpler DOM access. People use jQuery for about 3 lines of JavaScript they use in their whole thing because they didn't want to type out document get element by ID, but they want to do a $hash something. Now we have that in the browser as well. But the basics of HTML5 always stayed the same. A lot of people keep forgetting that. The basics are important, which are interoperable and independent of hardware and browser. I don't know what browser my users out there have. I don't know what computer they have, and I'm an asshole if I tell them they have to download a certain browser to use my application, because they might be in an office where they're not allowed to download something else. Our users shouldn't change because of us, because technology is clever enough to do it for them. It's open standards based, so not one company controls the whole technology stack, and if they get bored of it, they get rid of it. That's a bad thing. It's backwards compatible with the opportunity to reuse proven best practices. So an input type number, if it's not supported by a browser, is an input box. You can still type in the number, you don't get the validation, you don't get the number arrows up and down, but it still works. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. And it's simple and forgiving. The parser fixes markup issues for you, and that's why XHTML failed. One single HTML error and your page would be like an error message, and the user would be like, oh my god, I've done something wrong. And users do that. I've seen database errors on the screen and users looked at me like, oh, I must have done something wrong. No, you did nothing to the database. It was my error, but I did a bad mistake of not having a proper error handling here. So HTML5 was this like cool new thing, and we did it, and then we got overboard and we turned it into this flashy thing, like, oh look, now it's shiny and 3D, and we had all these demos where like a cube with a video on each side rotating in real time, because every investment bank that I worked for sooner or later will ask you, can you write a cube with a video on each side, because that really makes a difference for our end users. So we fell into the same trap that Flash did before. We just basically built shiny things to impress each other rather than building things that really made sense and go into an application space. And then we had this, you need a modern browser. Your browser is not good enough. And we had that before. The web is slightly broken. Well, a lot of it is broken because in 1997, 1999, we thought Internet Explorer 6 is the ever browser to ever people need. There's no new browser coming. This is the best thing ever. And that's why we have all these applications that only work with them, where you have to install Parallels on your Mac just to order a ticket or something like that. And we did the same mistake at the beginning of HTML5 when people said, well, you're not good enough, you have to have Chrome. No, I'm not going to use your stuff then. You got to use Firefox. And I was, oh God, I had so many meetings in the office, like basically people saying, oh, you need Firefox for that. No, then we don't release it. I'm sorry, it's for every browser or for none. This is what the web is about. Otherwise, we get into this problem again, where we're going to have lots of apps that don't work in 5 years' time because the browser isn't there any longer. Then, of course, it was the mobile thing. The iPhone was the first thing to really support HTML5, input types, and all these cool things, CSS animations. It's not part of HTML5, but became part of the bigger picture of HTML5. And people just build things for mobile. Out of a sudden, they recognize if it's HTML5, then it's a mobile interface, a touch interface with big buttons. This is a conference I spoke in last week in Berlin. This is the interface they gave me on my MacBook. Like 1400 pixels with a little arrow on the other side and a plus button to bookmark it, which didn't work. Because, oh, it's HTML5, so that's probably going to be something for a mobile. No, you can have media queries to check what the screen size is and give me the right experience, not just one experience. And then we had all these articles when clever people started analyzing what HTML5 support is like, and everything is broken and nothing works anymore. We had all these articles like, oh, HTML5 will never do it, didn't work for us, will not work for you. It's the hype curve. We always have this like, let's make some hype, and then like, oh, everything is shit. And then like, oh, well, maybe we can use it. And I think we're at the maybe we can use it thing right now. I love this poster, like, let's work together and put 3 cogs together that don't do anything when they turn, but fair enough. And it's not official for a long time. That was the other thing. When I worked with like banks and insurance companies, they said like, where is the specification for HTML5? And we're like, not there yet. And it's still not ratified fully by the W3C. Few weeks and it's gonna come. So people want that like, I need a standard to work against because I got an ISO 9000 certification or something like that and a telephone number to call. This is from Trollhunter, one of my favorite movies from Norway. It's just hilarious, especially when you don't understand it. And we fall into the keeping ourselves clever and occupied cycle. This is what's happening right now. Because we told people that HTML5 is broken and that there's old browsers out there that need to be 100% supported, we started changing HTML5 from something that is a standard that is defined to something that is an abstraction. So how do we make HTML5 work on old browsers? How do we make HTML5 work the same across all the browsers while these browsers are still implementing it and not really understanding it? The right way to do it would be to file bugs with the browsers and say like, this is broken, please fix this is broken, please fix it. But instead, we built all these like polyfills to make things work. And the things we took issue with in HTML5 is like, there's old browsers out there that cannot do all of that. Mobile operating systems are not good at upgrading their browsers. That was a big problem, that the browser was hardwired into Android and didn't upgrade until Android actually upgraded. And don't get me started with web views. That was the even worse thing on iOS and on Android, because it's not really a browser, but it is the browser engine, and it may be older than the other browser. I don't know what engine it is, and so on and so forth. Experimental implementations differ from browser to browser and environment to environment. That's all the -WebKit, -MOS, -MS, all these things, all the cruft that we put on the web that we don't need anymore now. And we wrote libraries, polyfills, and frameworks to make HTML5 work now, instead of waiting until it's actually ready. We just basically put something on top to make it work. And that's how we made HTML5 fat. This is how we made our applications out of a sudden be a few meg when all they do is just basically be a form where I can search something. Because, oh well, we need to have that library in there and that library. I have no idea what that library does, but the organizer said, that's going to be a great library for the next 15 years. Half of them are not maintained anymore. You have some random code in your application right now because it solves a problem for a browser that none of your users use any longer. And it shows, because if you look at the HTTP archive, you can see that the average website is now 2 meg and has, what is it, about like 100 different resources being loaded, requests being loaded every single time you click it. And we didn't come up with all these performance best practices when I worked in Yahoo and people in Google because of this. This is exactly what we said we shouldn't do, but we're doing this right now because we put all these libraries in there to make things work in environments the same everywhere. When your thing works the same everywhere on the web, you've written something bad. The idea of the web is that it works according to what the thing can do and gives you the best interface. Don't give Internet Explorer 6 people beautiful things. They're not used to that. They get scared when the thing is pretty. It confuses them. Don't give them fonts and stuff that they download and never see. Just give them something that works, get the job done, next. They're gonna have to change sooner or later. Internet Explorer 6 is not a browser anymore, it's a security hole. And it has to be fixed. Even the latest upgrades to SSL, when you put that on your server, IE can't even load the page any longer, so that's good. So how do we fix that? Of course we fix it by putting another thing in there. So now we have like starting a basic website in 2014, install Node, install Bower, pick CSS framework, pick responsive approach, and at 47 write some HTML. We build all these things that actually undo all the cruft that we put in first. So we pick 15 libraries and then we build a task runner and a packing system to take all the things out that we don't use, instead of not using them in the first place. And this is how we keep each other busy and impressive. We use abstractions to fix issues in the plumbing of the web and then add more abstractions to undo them. And then we give tech talks about this and impress each other how clever we are. Really? We also lose touch with the core ideas of the web and the main feature that made it a success it is now. And what feature is that? Bloody simplicity. I love going to Bangladesh and going to India and giving people a text editor on their computer and here write some HTML and look, now you've seen it. First time in 1996 when I wrote my first website, I'm like, oh my God, I can make an input box just by writing input in there. It's not like GTK or something like that where I have to define everything or download a pirated copy of Borland C Builder before I can actually build my first interface. No, I wrote a text file and this is what the web is. And it's easy to learn. It's not complex. I found this wonderful page here. It's basically some cooking thing for kids. But that's the web to me, a 3-ingredient silly putty. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. This will always run in every browser out there. To a degree, JavaScript can fail. CSS can fail. HTML can not fail, really. You have to do something really evil in HTML to fail. But it's silly putty. It's flexible. It gives you different environments for different solutions for different use cases. It's a very, very flexible environment. And we keep making that mistake that we try to actually shoehorn it into something. That's why you get these pages that like, optimized for 800 by 600 pixels, because no computer will be ever higher than that. Or now, out of a sudden, I put it on my phone, I got this massive like scroll bar, and you're like, really? Like, just give me something that works. So it's not that complex if you think about the basics of it. So when is the time to think in HTML5 and not in abstractions? When can we get rid of these abstractions to make everything work? It's soon, might actually be sooner, or might actually be sooner. It's actually, right now is a good time, because there's a recommendation ratification in the making. So even the banks, even the insurance companies, even the people who are afraid of new technologies will have a specification to work against. And that was good, because when Hixie said it's going to be 2025 or something in an interview, I was like, oh, no, really? But it's happening, and I think it's a silly thing for me as a developer, but if you need that Linus blanket of having a specification, it's out there. And the exciting things are happening in mobile right now. There's lots of support in mobile that leapfrogged that. The thing that held HTML5 back to me was partly iOS, which is ironic because they were the ones that spearheaded it, and Android having the problem of like lots and lots of Androids not getting upgraded. So Safari for iOS 8 is now massively improved HTML5 support. Android announced an evergreen web view, so the web view is actually now part of the Play Store. Instead of having to download a whole of Android and build a new Android, the web view can actually be updated while you not upgrade Android, and that's really cool. Because many providers, especially in like emerging countries and badly connected countries like America, don't actually update the whole operating system for you all the time, but at least you get a new browser. I always found the idea of shoehorning a browser into an operating system a super stupid idea. Internet Explorer cannot move as fast as other browsers because it's part of the operating system. It's not a browser, it's like big chunk of Windows. So you cannot just move it around and do something different with it like we can with Firefox or Google can with Chrome or Opera can with Opera. So that's good. The Evergreen Web View was a big, big thing. Firefox OS that I worked on covered most of South America and now available in Bangladesh and India. So we are actually going to the markets where other people are not going and where there's no connectivity. There's not going to be any desktop machines in Bangladesh anytime soon, but people have mobile phones. And they have like feature phones now that they want to upgrade to a smartphone. And this is going to be the first experience that they're going to have the web with. And I think it's very important that they have a good experience. That's why we should think about building things in a fashion that is consumable by them, and that's my talk at 3 o'clock if you want to go to that one. The native plugin-less video and audio is very, very well supported. Internet Explorer 8 is the only like turd in the punch bowl here. Everything else is completely fine. And of course, Opera Mini doesn't have a video and audio because it's a streaming browser. It's not a browser that actually executes things on your phone, but it actually executes in the cloud and gives you an HTML stream back. So a video embedded in HTML would be hard to do. Basic drawing and pixel manipulation with Canvas, well supported as well. Again, Opera Mini is the only issue here. 3D drawing using WebGL, less so, but it's getting better. The big win here is that iOS Safari now finally does WebGL as well. So I can write WebGL games for iOS without having to go through another extra layer. Chrome, Safari, Opera, all of them are there. The yellow things are just little bits and bobs of it that are not working. The basics are working there. Offline apps, caching resources. App Cache works. It's a very broken API, it's a very bad API, and I'm going to talk about this more in detail later on as well. But for a simple page and static content, you can totally use App Cache. And the sad thing is that not hardly anybody does right now. And it's very simple to do. It saves you traffic. It means the end user doesn't have to load the simple page every single time, but when they open it on their phone, it's already there. That's a good thing. Storing resources in web storage, which is like the name-value pair that you just do on your hard drive. It's a bit like a cookie on steroids. That works across all browsers except for Opera Mini again because it's live data and doesn't come as a thing. And that goes back to wherever. This is like so useful to do. Don't overuse it, like the local storage and session storage is synchronous, so if you put lots of data in there, it loads that up front before it shows you a page. That's the main problem with local storage. Other than that, it's a very simple string-based key-value pair storing of stuff. IndexedDB and WebSQL is the big divide between Apple and Microsoft and Google and Mozilla. But you can use both of them together and have full storage, have a full hard drive storage on your machine and in a relational database. So there's a test actually that I think I have in the other slides. I have written them both on the plane yesterday. I'm not quite sure where I put what. We found that about 20 times faster to read from an IndexedDB than to read from the file system itself. So if you put images and videos and things in there, it's a much, much better experience for your end users. And you have better control over it because you know it's going to be there, whereas when you rely on caching, you never know if it happens. WebSQL was important for Opera, for iOS Safari. Now they're getting into IndexedDB as well, so we don't have that one. There's a great tool called Local Forage. It's on GitHub. It's something we use in Firefox OS. And that one is just an abstraction layer. It's weird that I talked about abstraction layers and now I try to sell you one. But that one allows you to use the key value pair, and it uses whatever database is available in the operating system under the hood. And I think that's a very good use case for that. Browser history management simulation, super supported. Internet Explorer 9 didn't have it, but yeah, that's fine now. You can still have a backloading thing. DOM access, query selector all, class list, DOM token list is now available as well. This is the replacement for jQuery for me. This is basically all I need to have. Of course, it's a bit longer than $1 to get query selector, but it still does the same thing. And it's very easy to manipulate the DOM. And we should stop manipulating the DOM for everything that we do as well, because it is actually expensive on those devices to think about it. So go and try to solve real issues with technologies in the browsers. Stop worrying about this. Like you see all these articles like, oh, HTML5 not ready yet. Ooh, Facebook gave up on HTML5. Ooh, try it, play with it, see if it works for you. And it's amazing what you can build in a few lines of code if you're just basically not scared of it. The other day I gave a TED talk in Linz, and it was about social media and making social media more social again. And one of the things that I explained to people is that when you share photos online from your mobile device and you haven't set it up correctly, you share a lot more information than you want to. So that picture of you in the shower is not the picture of you in the shower, but it's the picture of you in the shower with the date it was taken, the time it was taken, and 10 meters surrounding where you were. So you basically, people know where you are by uploading a photo to Facebook. So I explained to them that there is a great tool called EXIF tool, which allows you on the command line to see all the EXIF data of an image and remove all the EXIF data of the image before you upload it somewhere else. And of course, for me, command line, yeah, cool. And I was like, what is a command line? That's the black thing that I sometimes see that's like the matrix, right, on my computer, yeah. So I wrote this, removephotodata.com, which allows you to actually upload an image into your site or drag and drop it into the browser, and it shows you the EXIF data of that image, and then it removes the EXIF data, and you have a download button to get rid of the EXIF data and just get the image that way. Works completely offline, doesn't store anything, there's no server in there, there's actually everything is in JavaScript, the source code is on GitHub, and I'm going to talk about that in more detail, maybe not later, but now. So this is the image of Willy the Wombat, and Willy the Wombat doesn't want you to know where he lives. So I used exif.js, which is a library that reads out the EXIF data in any image. So I used FileReader to get the image in as a data file, and then I find out that this is all the EXIF data that's in that image, like where date, time, original, geolocation, GPS info, all the things that I don't want to tell people is in this image in there. What I then did is basically take this EXIF data and take the image and put it on an HTML5 canvas. This is all that I had to do. Document query selector canvas, get context 2D, get the image of the natural height and natural width of the image, draw the image onto the canvas, and to get it back out of the canvas without the EXIF data, all I needed to do was create a link that says canvas to data URL, image JPEG 0.9. That means it takes the data, the pixel array of the canvas, and it packs it up as a JPEG with 0.9 quality. Like 1 is full quality, 0 is 0 quality. So that's a very simple way to create a JPEG file from a canvas. And then I have this download attribute, which sadly enough is not supported by Internet Explorer, but there's ways around that. And I just give it a download name, and that's it. So I didn't have to do anything. You just click on that link, and it asks you to download that image, and that is what the whole removephotodata.com is about. That's the whole thing. And then the EXIF data gets burned, and nobody knows where Willy the Wombat lives, and he's safe for the rest of his life, which is good. So keep up to date what's supported and use it. caniuse.com is a very, very good resource to type in and where I got all the graphs from that I showed you as well. Go in there, try the things out, make sure that you can use them, and then start using them. I think the biggest problem with the adoption of HTML5 was that we always had the what if question. What if my user has an old Internet Explorer? What if it's a mobile phone? What if it's that? What if it's that? We always think about the things that break as developers because we've been punished enough by people, by things not working. I think most of the time we debug, we don't code. We just basically, why is this not working? And I think we should shift our mindset if we want to survive, if we want this to be a big thing, from what if to if what. This is the most powerful thing in programming. You want to use some new technology? Put an if statement around it. You want to use query selector, if document query selector, and then everything in there will only be applied if query selector is supported. You can use non-support as a benefit. Media queries in CSS are a wonderful thing to give you like different layouts according to which size the screen is. Internet Explorer 8 doesn't support media queries. Excellent. Put one media query around your whole CSS, and Internet Explorer 8 will never ever get any of that CSS. You don't have to test it in that browser anymore because you know it's not going to be applied. And that's a good thing. The biggest problem for me as a developer is when something gets applied half-assed and I don't know if it's going to work or not. If I can safely say it's not going to get applied, that's a benefit. So use that what if and if what for your benefit here. Test for the thing, then apply it. It's a simple concept of jumping into the water after checking that it's deep enough. Because if it's not, you might hurt yourself. But in programming, we never do that. We're like, oh, it's great water, let's jump in. So HTML5 is not experimental features of browsers becoming our maintenance problem. Enough already. Whenever I see a dash WebKit dash, or I see some Moz something, some preview thing, I want to scream. It was unfair of us browser makers to tell you developers to become our guinea pigs by having to write code. I rather like right now that we have flags that you have to set in the browser, because then you can test it before you write code that the end user gets that never gets replaced. The amount of buttons that were basically white text with WebKit gradient background, so it was a white button on a white background, amazing. And we cannot do anything with those sites because we can't fix them anymore because they don't get maintained anymore. We just have lots of broken code in there because somebody was excited about new features. There's no need to wait for one company to give you an update. HTML5 is not Flash. Flash was always is a super environment. I love Flash. I think there's great use cases for it still, but it's still one company saying here's updates and here's the things we're going to do. And this is what a standard is not, and I think that's very important. It's not limited by buggy implementations of browsers. If you encounter them, report them. Don't go on Twitter and say like, ooh, Mozilla is shit because their browser doesn't do anything. That doesn't help anybody. That just causes tech journalists to say HTML5 is broken. What fixes it is filing a bug. What fixes it is actually give us an example how it broke and what the issue with it was. There's nothing better for browser makers to get a real website that we can test against why something is broken. Not some demo case or some random edge case that people came up with, but 50,000 people cannot have their insurance today because your button doesn't work when I click on it. Great, that's something that we will fix because it's important and it needs an upgrade. So I think it's time to move fast and break nothing. Facebook used to say like, move fast and break things, and I hate that because I don't like breaking things because nobody cleans up after you. I know my flat looks like that right now. It's just move fast and break nothing because things are moving. Be part of this. Be excited about the new technologies, but don't rely on everything that is experimental. This is in London. By the time you've read this, the Earth will have spun 1,450 meters. This is how fast we move, and I think we should do that. So embrace new technology, but embrace it in a way that actually makes sense that you don't break your end user's experience. And this is what HTML5 does right now. The time is right for using it, so please use it, and that's all I had. Thank you very much.